never give up. I never give up. I never give up.
Hi guys, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today I have another fantastic day for an interview because I've got Rebecca Whitman with me. Rebecca is a woman who has figured out a system, a way how to truly bring abundance into your life rather than running like crazy on your hamster wheel, actually being far more intentional in your living, being far more intentional into various pillars within your life. And as such, I think it will be an amazing interview, no doubt in my mind. So Rebecca, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's so great to be here.
Oh, wow. Hey, look, it is no one ever wakes up one day in their youth and think, yeah, great, I'm going to be a magnetic abundance teacher out there. I go out there and I'm going to teach women how to become the best versions of themselves. Typically, there was a bit of a darker background. What was your background to come into this role?
Yeah, I had a really dark period when I was in LA. I moved to LA 22 years ago to pursue my childhood dream of being an actress.
Oh.
And although I had small parts on big shows like Friends, CSI, and 24,
Cool.
I never did get that big break. So instead, I supported myself through working at a children's acting school, which I totally loved because I love kids and I don't have any of my own. And while the kids were at school, I studied with great spiritual teachers that we all know and love, people like Michael Beckwith, Esther Hicks, Wayne Dyer. And I started applying the law of attraction to my job at the kids acting school. Before I knew it, I was making six figures. And I tried to apply it to my love life, and it did not work out as well because I had a habit of picking emotionally unavailable narcissistic men and trying to convince them to commit to me. Finally, one did, and I married him. And 3 years after marriage, a very painful, emotionally abusive marriage, I filed for divorce. And it just so happened that as my marriage was unraveling, my dad was dying in a nursing home. And I would fly back and forth from Los Angeles, California, where I live, to Cincinnati, Ohio, where I grew up and where my dad lay dying in a nursing home. And I never knew which conversation would be our last. And in one of our last conversations, he asked me to write a book. And I, of course, wanted to honor his dying wish. I had no idea what I was going to write about, Stephan. And a few months later, my dad had died. My marriage had been dissolved. In fact, they happened within 72 hours of each other. And I was sitting across the desk from my financial planner, and he said, Rebecca, I got to tell you, you're having your best financial year ever. Even though you lost your dad in your marriage, you've become a self-made millionaire this year. And I think you should write a book and teach people how you're living your life. And I said, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I looked at my life and I realized that there were 7 key areas that I was living into. And when all 7 areas of my life are in alignment, I can be, do, or have anything I want. So I've now married my soulmate, and I've been coaching women on how to go from burned out and overwhelmed to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. And it's just been amazing. And I call myself the Magnetic Abundance Mentor because I teach women not to chase anything, not to push their energy to exhaustion, but to practice self-love and practice joy so that they can pull everything through the law of attraction into them.
Beautiful. It's a very beautifully said, but it's kind of an abstract thing. To love yourself is one of the hardest things. I mean, if there's one huge challenge in each and every one of our lives, is to deal with the absolute screwed up core beliefs that are laid down somehow in our youth. You're never good enough. You're ugly. You're a failure. I could go on for hours. These are the typical words that we talk to each other, to talk to ourselves. You would never say that to your worst enemy. the way you talk to yourself. So how the hell do you get from that kind of negative -100 to a life of serenity, a life of happiness, a life of balance?
It takes a lot of work. And just like you said before we hit record, it's looking at your past, looking at your patterns, looking at the pain of your life that most people run from, seeing what didn't work, what caused you pain, what caused other people pain, and literally rewiring your brain to not think negative. I think that our reptilian brain, our limbic system, is designed to be fight or flight. It's designed to be in scarcity. There's not enough love. There's not enough food. There's not enough money. There's not enough time. And it's rewiring that into a more evolved brain that is full of love and compassion. And I did that through a lot of different things. I mean, I've been in and around the 12 steps for over 30 years. I've had several therapists. I've had many coaches, life coaches, spiritual mentors. And one of the biggest things that has helped me is affirmations and journaling. When I was in a 12-step meeting as a teenager, I met a woman named Janet, who I now think is an absolute angel because I never saw her again. And she gave me a format to write a God journal. And these were life-changing journal prompts. I've added a few journal prompts of my own, and now I call it my abundance journal. I'm actually going to gift it to your listeners with your permission. And doing this journal every morning has really helped flip my thinking from negative to positive. And it's a practice that this practice has changed my life, as well as affirmations.
Beautiful. And in other words, you haven't just actually realized, okay, I want to do something. I somehow want to be a far better self-lover, so to speak. But you actually put things into motion. You actually took action. And I think that is the key thing. So many of us are in that kind of pity party where we don't know what to do. To a degree, there's analysis paralysis, where we think, oh my God, we could do so much. Oh my God, I need a drink. Or, oh my God, give me that cheesecake. And so on and so on. So we escape our reality rather than actually dealing with those things that you actually can control. And it's sometimes so hard. It's this kind of attitude that needs practice, that needs absolute practice. And I can attest to the success of your approach, because it is, at the moment, I'm going through hard times and a lot of challenges. So, and there's one wave of anxiety after the other sort of flooding over me, and then a bit of depression wanting to come in. Oh, it's all so bad. And pity party. And it is, I notice these neurochemicals washing over me, and I'm sort of thinking, okay, hello, I recognize you. And then, okay, maybe I give it a bit of time, I feel that emotion, and then I force myself to take an action, whatever this may be. Okay, yes, right now, okay, I just want to go to the toilet. I take some deep breaths, empty my bladder, which was contributing to my stress. So maybe drink half a liter of water, because I was actually dehydrated, which didn't help. Now I eat something healthy. I've taken 3 actions already where I am no longer the victim, but I'm in control. And these are the beautiful things when you actually start on the very basics, on your basic needs, and get your shit right there. Then suddenly you can do it. And I found that so liberating, so empowering, that whatever goes on around me, I have still control over what I do. And that is only a superpower that I truly appreciated this year. And so therefore, absolutely, what you're saying, what you're teaching is gold. Absolutely.
Thank you.
But
when I feel myself off center, I ask myself, how am I feeling right now? Because I don't want to, like you said, drink, shop, drug, sex, whatever, distract myself. How do I feel? What do I want in this life? What do I want in this area? And then what action do I need to take to feel better? That's a healthy action. And that is how I shift out of negative emotions. But it's also, like you said, it's okay to feel your negative emotions, because you don't want to just take so much action that you're not feeling them. It's okay to acknowledge that they're there. And I like to think of our soul as the sky and our emotions as the weather. Our soul cannot be harmed, hurt, or endangered. It's divine. But emotions, they change just like the weather, but we are not our emotions. I had a client who lost her mom and her sister 22 years before meeting me. And she said, Rebecca, I attached my identity to the emotion of sadness. And then I am depressed. And I said, you are not your depression. You were grieving the loss of your mom and your sister. And just that distinction alone, she realized she doesn't have to be depressed anymore.
Nice. And these are the breakthroughs that are there. And this is dealing with those core beliefs that we sometimes create ourselves, and that are like a life raft. You're clinging onto it because it made sense to you at one stage, and you're now still clinging onto that life raft. And when actually it only drags you further out to sea. And if you were to turn around and see actually the beach is behind you, you could just let go of the life raft and swim there, and suddenly actually happiness is waiting. So it's a very, very nice way of putting that. But I mean,
happiness is so close. Like, you're one decision away from happiness. We think it's so far out of our reach, and that we have to swim toward, to use your analogy, swim for years and hours and months toward happiness, when it's literally a decision.
And that is powerful. That is very powerful. Now, many people who are in the darkness right now, and they're listening to us, think, what a bullshit. Here I am, a single mom. I can barely make ends meet. I'm working 3 jobs to actually put some food in front of my children whilst I still go hungry. And, it is that is unfortunately the life that many people have to live at this moment in time. Leave alone those poor folks who are in more unstable countries. Just saying Middle East, saying Ukraine. Here you go with happiness. Get lost. We don't know where water is coming from. What would you tell such a person?
I would tell them that, first of all, I'm sorry that they're going through so much hardship right now. And I would tell them that God gives the hardest lessons to his best students. And that if you can find peace or happiness in what you're going through, as hard as it is, it will make it easier. I like what Abraham says, when you're falling out of the plane, just close your eyes, it'll go quickly. Or what Winston Churchill says, when you're going through hell, walk fast. Don't milk the self-pity, because there's plenty to feel self-pity about, I would tell them. But if you focus on all the negative and you play the victim, it's only going to make your pain and suffering worse, versus what Viktor Frankl did when he was in the concentration camps. He was constantly trying to be of service and find meaning outside of his circumstances. So that is what I would tell them.
Absolutely. For those of you, Viktor Frankl, for those of you not read as well, Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist, a Jewish psychiatrist who ended up in Auschwitz. And he wrote the meaning. It's the meaning of life, isn't it? No, it's. He wrote it.
Meaning of life.
Something like that. I do apologize, guys. It is a very thin book, but it's the most beautiful book to read. How to make sense in such atrocious conditions. How can you continue to live? How can you actually survive under such circumstances? Amazing. So there are many, many circumstances where it looks so dark for you, where you think, my God, there will never be a way out. There will never be any help. There will never be any hope. And
his book is called The Will to Meaning. I think it's called The Will to Meaning, or Happiness and Meaning. I don't know. There's lots of different stuff. But
no, that's cool. Yeah, that's right.
There's a way to find meaning in suffering. And it is going to end when you're in suffering. Know that everything's going to end, including our lives. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so does suffering.
There is a nice saying, even the darkest hour has only got 60 minutes. So there is an end to anything. And that is something that I actually put it into practice every day now, at times of challenges. And I have to say, it's true. And I prove it to myself every single day. And because I prove it to myself, therefore, the lies that the pity party Stephan wants to tell me, I can negate them. I can talk against it. But that is something that is a habit that I force myself to learn. And that's what you teach your people. For example, with the journaling, you're taking action. You are actually writing things down. And the moment you write things down, sometimes you look at it, that's bullshit. Do you get that still? When you journal, that sometimes something comes out of your fingers and you think, what the hell?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when I journal, I tell on myself. I write down the part of my thinking that is not serving my highest good. And then through the journal prompts, I flip it around. Like one of the journal prompts is how the worst thing that happened to me today is actually the best thing.
Nice one. Okay. The silver lining. So we are hunting for the silver lining of that cloud. I love that. So I mean, that's your principal way of approaching the abundance. But tell us a bit more about those 7 pillars, because you have broken it down into manageable pieces. Because I find it often quite overwhelming. Where the hell shall I start? And sometimes I get this flood of I need to do, I want to do, I must do, and you think, oh, fuck off! I just stay in bed.
Yeah, so I have broken life down into these 7 areas, and they all have actionable steps. And to me, they're in order of importance. So the first area is spiritual. And I know a lot of people on podcasts talk about the importance of a morning practice, but it is very important to me, not only what I put in my mind, but what I put in my body. So the second I wake up, I'll put in my AirPods, I'll listen to something positive like your wonderful podcast or a YouTube video, Audible, so my brain doesn't start going negative on me. So I catch it right when I wake up. Then I will drink lemon water. I drink liquid collagen. I take my supplements. I'll get a hot beverage. I go back and forth between coffee and tea. I'll sit in a corner of my couch that I call the throne. I have all my spiritual literature to the left of me on a side table, and I will do my journaling. I'll read spiritual literature. And if I have a couple minutes, I'll do some meditation. Then I'm off. So that's the first pillar, spirituality. The second pillar is fitness. Then I'm off to the gym. I mix it up between the gym, yoga, and tennis. So I'll do something physical. The next one is emotional. That is a practice that goes on all day long, changing my scarcity thinking to abundance thinking, changing my fear to love. And the fastest way to do that is to be happy exactly where I am. Happiness is not getting what you want, it's wanting what you have and being grateful for it. So that is something that helps me with my emotions. And it's a constant rerouting of my mind to go from negative to positive all day long. And it's a practice, and it gets easier. The next one is romantic. And being romantic with my husband means listening, being present, not interrupting, making him feel that there's time and space to connect. And it also includes at least one date night a week. So that's romantic. The next one is mental, which just means room to grow. It could be mindset work, which I do in the nooks and crannies of my day. When I wake up, when I fall asleep, I'm listening to a podcast or an Audible or a YouTube video. When I'm driving, when I'm doing household chores, I'm constantly listening to things that feed my soul. And I also like to learn new skills. So I've, learned a few software things. I've taken up tennis again. There's different things that you can learn in mental. After mental is social. And being a part of a community, I think, is really important for me. Community creates immunity. So I'm a part of various communities, both in person and online. And social also means having one social visit a week with a friend where we're just friends, no business. And then finally, financial. And financial is where I put the most of my hours right now, because I'm building my brand and building my coaching business, but I don't do it in a way that exhausts me and burns me out. I use time blocking, and I block out what I call power hours, and I'll do so many hours of concentrated effort, and then I will take a break. I kind of set up my life like a HIIT training, high intensity interval training, where I do sprints and then I have fun, and I work hard and then I have fun. And that way I don't burn myself out. And sometimes I still will burn myself out because I'm a very focused person. And then I'm like, okay, I'm getting exhausted. I'm getting cranky. I need to pull back a little bit more and take some more downtime and just relax. So that's kind of how I live my life in the 7 pillars, and how they all work together.
Which is beautiful. And it's such a simple yet highly, highly strategic and successful way of living. You live very intentional. There are some fun times with your friends when you float around and talk shit, and you're not doing anything that is focused or how should I say that has a plan to it, or a dedicated outcome. You just want to be present in the moment, and that is wonderful. But there are many other times when you are not just floating through the air like a leaf that is coming off a tree, but actually that you're saying, well, right now I want to deal with X, with my finances. And it's so beautiful, because when we do that, when we start living intentional, and you say, okay, now I do an hour of finance. Wow, you are ticking things off. And let me guess, you're switching off your social media. You're not letting any kind of push notifications distract you.
I'm turning off all notifications. I'm not accepting any personal calls or text. I'm not long focused. Like, I even do the Pomodoro method, which is 25 minutes of focus and a 5-minute break.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, I just have to be totally focused for 25 minutes. So then on my 5-minute break, I can check my social media. I can return a text. I can pet my dog. Yeah. So, if I do 2 25-minute sprints, now that's a power hour. So it's a great way to stay lifted and stay up. And if you notice, none of the things that I talked about cost a ton of money. So it's not about, going to a fancy spa. I'm a huge believer in self-care. Self-care is not selfish. I believe we need to fill ourselves up first and feel full of life and joy, and then we give, which is very counterintuitive for Western women. We're taught that we're supposed to give to everybody first, our husbands, our children, our friends, our boss, and then to ourselves. I I like to give to myself first. And then when I show up, I'm completely full of joy and I'm giving from the overflow, not giving from burnout or depletion.
Very nice, very nice. And these are such important words that I need to hear because, of course, I'm not always walking the walk. I'm talking the talk a lot, but do I really, truly, honestly put time into myself, into the self-care that I want? Probably not. And it is probably, there. Having said that, there are also times when you need to put the nose to the grindstone. Okay, it is if financially you're really in hard times, then you need to focus on your finances. So this beautiful balanced approach to deal with everything in the same day does not always work out, does it? So life will throw you challenges, and you, of course, have to deal with them. Life will also throw you challenges that your physical well-being might not be as good. You might have COVID coming, knocking on the door, or just something else might happen to you where biologically you are not your best. So it's all quite nice to say, oh, I need to do 15 minutes exercise today, and if not, I'm a failure. Well, no, hang on. So how do you deal with those little voices that are telling you, oh, you're a failure, you didn't achieve that? Here you are, you're a coach, you're supposed to be perfect. And how does that work?
Yeah, I'm actually a recovering perfectionist, so I do have those voices quite often. And when I feel myself being a perfectionist, that means that my inner dialogue is beating myself up. And it's words like would have, could have, and should have that I use to beat myself up. Right. So I take those words out of my vocabulary. There is no room for regret. God is everything or God is nothing, whatever you think it is, destiny, fate, nature, whatever, the universe. I just don't believe in coincidence because I use that. If there's any room to beat myself up about the past, I'll use that. So I just believe that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that if something didn't work out, then it's a lesson that I meant to learn. And there is no failure. I either win or I learn. And sometimes the best way to learn something is through failure, because when you win, you're not paying attention. You're just paying attention to what you're getting and what's next. But when you're failing, you're like, oh my God, I have been trying to reach this goal. I've tried 7 ways to Sunday to reach it, and none of it's working. So you have to do a lot of reflection. You have to review your actions. You have to listen to coaches or podcasts and ask for input. So what would you do? I'm asking your listeners, if you knew that there was no failure, that you're either going to get what you want or you'll learn great lessons, which you could have not learned any other way.
Beautifully said. And I think that is the biggest thing that I often, where I console myself. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And that is something that is tattooed deep inside my soul. And this is a huge step away from the beating up that I did and that my parents brought me up. You need to be a success. You need to always be happy. You need to always look the best. You need to always, there's certain kind of it's like a prison that you create for yourself, a mental prison, the way you have to be. And the moment you're falling below those 100%, you are beating yourself up. My goodness. What about the imposter syndrome? Do you still? I have
an affirmation that I wanted to share with your audience that really helps. And it also connects with what you said, Stephan, about setting yourself free. This is my affirmation that has really helped me overcome my perfectionism. It's I am enough. I have enough. I am willing to set myself free, because perfectionism is like living in a trap of your own mind. And I want to be free from that. So that affirmation has really, really helped. As far as imposter syndrome, I don't have that. I have delusions of grandeur. I think, why am I not a famous movie star? Why am I not mansion in Malibu Beach? I don't have any imposter syndrome. It's the opposite. Like, why am I not further ahead? It's more of
Excellent.
like comparison. I call it compare and despair. Well, if that person did that, why can't I have that too? So I don't have imposter syndrome.
Excellent. Compare and despair. Oh, I like that. I need to steal that.
You steal it. I stole from someone else.
Okay, so beautiful delusions of grandeur. So I throw it back to you. I mean, that is the classic narcissist talking there. Are you a narcissist?
I might have been a long time ago when I was in college, before I got on my spiritual path. I probably was a borderline narcissist.
Excellent. And how
Yeah.
cool is that? How cool is that? You can actually say that. There is no,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't say that because
I don't
it's
care.
no, it's beautiful because we all have got this rainbow of traits, this rainbow of beliefs within us. And some of them are stronger than others. Some of them are nicely balanced. And sometimes when we get out of balance, new traits come out, or traits that maybe don't make you so nice when you're distressed. And it is a journey of discovery. You are figuring those things out, and it is I want to all welcome you onto this journey, onto this path, because only this way that we can actually grow. By actually just, shining the light into the dark nooks and crannies of our behavior to actually see, hang on, that looks a bit like, whatever, narcissism or whatever trait there is, whatever personality disorder maybe describes you. That is okay. This is once you have done a really good inventory, and that is really the step 4 of the AA, where a 12-step system is so powerful, because it actually forces you to, or strongly encourages you to have a look into your beliefs, your resentments, your what you consider failures, what you consider other people, your anger list, a number of lists you can do. And when actually do that, which is very similar to the journaling that you actually are doing on a daily basis, there is suddenly things are coming out. Because somehow they have been rummaging around in the back of your mind, and suddenly you're writing them down. They become real there, and sometimes it's amazing what your fingers write.
It's amazing, yeah. And I don't really think that I ever get over my character defects, to use the AA terms, or my neuroses completely. I think that I know how to work with them and not act on them. But when I get irritated, they come back, So it's a constant discipline to do all these things, to live, in self-care, to do the morning practice, to have, the affirmations, all the stuff. So I don't go back into that way of being. I'm not an ascended master. I don't, I'm not a spiritual avatar or anything. I'm just someone who has figured out how to work on myself to live a happy life, despite, being a little neurotic. And one of my favorite therapists says a neurotic is someone who walks around with a bucket on their foot, and nobody else can see it. Well, everybody can see it, but it's just, it's there. The bucket's on my foot. I just know how to walk, to dance, and do all the fun things with the bucket on my foot.
I like it because there's certain things you can't change, certain ways of thinking which are hardwired. There's only so much you can do with working on core beliefs when things are hardwired in your brain. It is what it is. But as long as you're cognizant, as long as you explore your emotions and ask yourself, that's interesting. Why did I just respond like that? It's typically the responses, the reactions to the things that happen to us that show us our true selves at that moment in time. Let that be either personality traits that maybe you're not so happy with, or it might be revealing that you're not in that level playing field, but that you're the level of stress, or even worse, the level of distress up there, and all those kind of things will alter the way you respond. Whatever is happening.
The best thing that I have ever installed in my brain is a pause button. Because when the old anger or the old way of being comes up, I pause my brain. I said, okay, that's the old Rebecca. I don't want to act that way anymore. I don't want to say things like that anymore. And I get a pause. And then I ask myself, what would love say? How would love respond? How would love react? And I literally do not act out on my old personality. I act my way into right thinking. But the pause button has really helped me a lot, because when I react, I don't have a chance to act, change the way I'm behaving.
Very nice. Very nice. And that's hard, because once there are certain psychological setups that make that really hard. For example, PTSD. A lot of us have got trauma in our background, and we are therefore often working on a fight and flight response, which is really beautiful, because if another guy with a knife comes to kill you, then you can't just wait and say, let me pause, let me think, what should I do? You need to respond. And so therefore, if PTSD or variations of such an emotional setup are driving you, you might make snap decisions at times when actually a bit more caution, a bit more a pause would have made you realize that actually the way you understood the situation might not be the whole truth, or might not be actually the way it was. So guilty as charged. With my background of my trauma, I can be very doof. But even that, and because I appreciate that, because I actually nurture that responsiveness. I love my situational awareness. I love that I'm switched on. But I also know the bad side to that pause button. So you can train that, guys. Just be aware that certain circumstances might jump off immediately. You get a trigger, bang, there you go, immediate response. So that is so important, that you develop that little delay, and suddenly your life will change. Rest assured.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's so much that we can work on. And it's sometimes so hard to figure out where to start. And I guess that's where someone like you comes in, because that's where you need someone who actually has been in that situation and has worked out which steps make most sense, which are the low-hanging fruits, which things can you do right now that are easy and get you going, rather than thinking, oh my God, I need to climb Mount Kilimanjaro on my knees, and then only up there will I find exactly. There, you can be more successful earlier on, even before you get to.
I believe in taking small action steps today that can change your life. There's macro goals and micro goals. It's always great to have huge goals, but just do something right now that shifts your mindset. I believe in doing things right now. One of the things is, when I feel myself spinning, I will get into my five senses. Like, what am I seeing? What am I smelling? What am I tasting? What am I feeling? What am I touching? What kind of surface are my feet on? Really looking at the person that you're talking to, or really looking out your window at all the different colors of the landscape or the city life. These are different things that can help you get grounded in the present moment.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And that is isn't it? And that is where you bring yourself right now into that moment, right now, actually just putting your hands onto the surface in front of you will make you feel the coldness, the texture, the structure. And it gets you away from the, oh my God, it could happen that, or oh, yesterday, look what you did. No, right now you're feeling that surface. And see, nothing actually bad happens when you feel that. And that is sort of something where you might then say, okay, so this is something that I've done. Maybe I'll take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. So whilst my chest was rising, what you don't see on the camera here, because it's cut off, my diaphragm was pushing down. So I was taking a deep breath, and I was actually doing a diaphragmatic breathing, doing a tummy breath. And that is a beautiful thing. Now imagine now that you have got your fingers there, you actually see that calmness of your fingers. You now learn how to do maybe some other breathing techniques, maybe a kind of triangular breathing, where you take a breath in over time, hold it for a little bit, and then breathe it out slowly. This would be a very nice technique, and you repeat that several times. And very quickly, what you will experience is actually your hands will relax. Yeah, I've just tried it now. My hands initially, when I laid them down, were tense. And now I was doing the breathing, my hands have completely relaxed. And there I can see it. It's immediately in front of me. That was what? We did what? 30 seconds? 45 seconds now?
Not much.
Exactly. So that is how beautiful you can change your state. So Rebecca, you're so on the money there. You're so good in doing that, in teaching that. Wow.
Well, think about it. All pain is in the past or the future. It's the pain of the past is depression, regret, beating yourself up, thinking you should be further ahead than you really are. The future is anxiety. Oh my God, what's going to happen? How am I going to get through this? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to find love? How am I going to fall asleep? How am I going to this? How am I going to that? But true happiness is in the present. So what you did with the breath, the mind controls the body and the breath controls the mind. So mind control comes from breath, being grounded in the five senses. And if that still doesn't work, if you're still determined to think about the past or the future, then just think about the very next thing that you're going to do. Just think about the next step, the next indicated action. What is my next step? What is my next indicated action? Because that is not too far into the future, and it's certainly not in the past. That is another thing that really helps me when I start spinning is what is just my next step? Do that, and then what is my next step? And before you know it, your day is finished and you've had a productive day.
Exactly. And it can be quite powerful. Are you doing still to-do lists, or do you do gratitude lists? Or what do you do in order to actually to maybe record? There's a nice saying, if your life is worthwhile living, it's worthwhile recording. So what do you do in your own life?
Yeah, well, this is part of the abundance journal gift that I'm going to give your listeners. I do gratitude lists as part of that journal, but I also do surrender lists. Everybody teaches gratitude. Not many coaches teach surrender lists. So everything in my mind that is causing me anxiety, I will write down on a surrender list. And then once it's written down, I give it over to whatever your higher power is. I choose to call mine God or love. So I have a surrender list, and that's part of the abundance journal. And then I do have a to-do list for the week of, goals and intentions and personal tasks that I need to get done. Because I'm running 4 businesses, and if I didn't have my to-do list, I wouldn't be very organized. So, and they don't all get done in a week. Some, carry over from week to week. I used to do them every day. I feel like if I do them every day, it's too much pressure, but I do them for the week.
Nice. Nice. And I think that is really, really good because it's setting priorities, and it is basically accepting that whilst, of course, in an ideal world, you want to touch all those 7 pillars and want to do work in all of them, it is not always possible, and that there are priorities at some parts in your life, some stages in your life, and that's absolutely okay. And I love it how you carry things over. I still do. What do I do? I guess it's a mixture of gratitude and to do on a daily basis. It's very satisfying for me to set real goals, realistic goals, shall I say, for the day, small, measurable goals, and tick them off. Just the ticking off, bang, 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 is lovely. And I end up with about 20 things, typically thereabouts, of which I typically get about 15 things done. But that is. That puts a smile on my face. Even if it's only 10 things that I get done, it still puts a smile on my face because I say, wow, you did that. You took action. You focused on what was important. Bingo. And rather compared with my past, when I wrote to-do lists, which even Superman on speed would not have been able to do a fraction of which. And then if I didn't do that, the whole list, I beat myself up. Here, you see, you're a failure. Yeah, here is the proof. You're a failure. And it's those kind of shitty beliefs. Reframe them. Reframe what is happening and focus on what is important. Focus on you being a success when you actually get up and look after yourself. That is a success feature. Yeah. Okay, that is a way forward. When you actually make sure that you have a breakfast, and then make sure that you have got some water. Make sure. I love your rituals in the morning are absolutely beautiful. And guys, absolutely. And guys, for you, that might look a bit different. You might say, well, actually, my sleep is so important. I truly want to come out of bed, go straight into my car and go drive to work. But then if that works for you, then make sure that when you're at work, your first break, you will actually do those things. Don't just keep going and running and running. You need to figure out what works for you. There is not one thing. This compare and despair is so beautiful. I steal that from you, honestly. I steal that.
Take it. It's all your...
That is
you could do it as an evening ritual too.
Exactly.
If you have more energy and more space in your schedule at night, you can do an evening ritual. Whatever, like you said, whatever works for you. Exactly.
But you have got the power. You've got the power to make change. And that power, once you harness it, it is like a flower or like a vegetable in your garden. Once you give it actually the love, take the weeds away around it, focus on it, give it nutrition and water, suddenly you have got an abundance of that vegetable there. And it's within your powers. You can look after that particular feature in your life and do something with it. It will grow, it will expand, and it's if you let it. Sometimes we are trying, I focus on that. Oh no, then I focus on that, then I focus on that. And when you look back, that poor little vegetable has just wilted. So it needs to be ongoing, intentional steps that you're taking. It needs to be focused action that you're taking. And that is what is called a habit. And that is exactly what you're preaching, Rebecca. That's exactly where you are helping people, which is an amazing, amazing work. Rebecca, if people say, wow, this woman really got her shit together, I want to work with her, I want to find out more about her, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Rebecca E. Whitman. And my website is Rebecca Elizabeth Whitman with a Z. Mm-hmm. And Stephan, you can share my link tree that will have a link to my abundance journal, which I want to gift your listeners.
Thank you.
And also we'll link to my podcast. I also have a free women's circle on Tuesdays at noon Pacific time. I think that's 8 a.m. in Australia or New Zealand. I'm not sure. But yeah, you are all the stuff that I'm doing. I do a lot of summits and retreats. it's all on my Linktree link that Stephan will be sharing in the show notes. So I hope to stay in touch with you guys. And it's just been such a great conversation, Stephan. You are very deep and you have so much gravitas. And I've really enjoyed this talk. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much. It's very easy to bounce topics around when you both have gone through darkness, when you both have gone through a journey of self-discovery and appreciated the power that lies within us and that we often forget. It's so easy to stay in the victim part. Or maybe if you grow a little bit, you become that survivor, but often that resentful, bitter survivor. But it's that post-traumatic growth that brings us into the thriver kind of thing. And that's where the magic happens. That's where it is good to be. And it's okay to dip your toes back into the pity party or to become back to survivor for a bit if needs must. It's okay. It's okay. But as long as you know that you mainly want to be over here and that you have got all the power to all the possibilities to actually get yourself there, build within yourself. You don't need all magic from external stuff. You can do it. I think that is what gives me hope myself for my life, and I want you to experience that out there as well. Rebecca, you're an amazing woman. Now, some of us might still struggle to think, well, what do I give my loved ones for Christmas? And you have written some books. So I wonder if your books might actually be a nice Christmas present.
Yes,
just thinking.
I have one on Amazon. It's only $10 American, and it's called How to Make a Six-Figure Income Working Part-Time. And you can give that as a gift, or if you have Audible, it's only 1 credit. And I would love for you to gift that. It's a wonderful gift to give someone a life of balance, beauty, and abundance.
Exactly. So, that's how easy you can change your life yourself, guys. So again, you're taking action, and very good. And look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast, because we have got all the links for Rebecca down there. And whilst you're down there, you might as well like and subscribe. And I think, well, actually, I'll tell my friends about this show. And also tell them about Rebecca's show, because there's so much there where we all can grow. And if we all become that one big family that exchanges ideas and actually, support each other, how cool would that be? Do you think we can change this world? I think so.
I absolutely do. Yes.
Wonderful. Rebecca, you're a gorgeous woman. Thank you so much for making my day a little bit better by letting me grow, letting me reflect on those things. I wish you a fantastic time. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. And you guys out there, live with passion. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.